2020 on the platform of an orderly dissolution of the United States federal government.
We will not be silent. We will not obey. We will not allow our government to destroy our humanity. We are the final American Revolution. See you next Independence Day.
It's just interesting timing to sort of cross that divide there. But
most great revolutionaries come out of incarceration and then start changing.
That's the formula I'm trying to follow. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the next step in the recipe is here.
Well, he's never got incarcerated. Never got incarcerated.
It's the ones that should have that did it that you got to worry about.
Right, he should have got incarcerated. He would have been better. He would have been better off. Now, and I guess, sure.
So tell us about this platform. Like, what is your platform for 2020? What are
very simple. Very, very simple. I'm running for president in 2020 on the platform of an orderly, peaceful dissolution of the entire United States federal government. And in order for this to work, there needs to be a certain amount of awakening in America. Not to what I would consider the moral political philosophy of libertarianism based on the non-aggression principle, based on self-ownership, but at least an awakening that sees past getting that emotional gratification of nationalism, of a sense of identity, of being an American rather than being a free, beautiful, independent human being. Whatever that is, whatever it is that people need from getting a communal sense of identity, that we separate that from the violent monopoly that is government. That you don't need an American federal government to have that sense of identity or to get what you want out of that. And that need is not as important as advancing humanity to a freer, more peaceful society. And you have to have a certain understanding that big change is required at this point. That you're not going to fight inch by inch at the local level. That you're not going to fight one law. That you're not going to lobby for one tax break where they're going to take a mile behind your back and laugh while you're doing it, or give you all of the concessions and then keep printing money at the Federal Reserve and ripping you off through the inflation tax. It means that people really need to have a certain integrity to face up to the situation that we're facing today as a country, as the collective victims of the United States federal government, that we would be better off without it entirely than with it.
There would be no country.
If I may suggest, going back to the distinction between what we're proposing, the specific advantage of what I'm talking about, because when you say we're going to retake the federal government, you suggest that you need a national leader, you need some national management of this new government, you need everybody in the nation to somehow agree on a plan. What I'm suggesting of simply returning all of that authority immediately to the states has this great advantage of being able to unify people who are of vastly different opinions. They don't have to wake up. They don't have to agree with us philosophically. They don't have to think about what we are proposing or what we believe in. If they know that they are going to get better governance the closer it is to them at the state level, where it better reflects the needs of their community.
Yeah, well, let me expand on that.
National level. It can be reclaimed by states and local governments in the process of decentralization. I think really this idea of localizing power is the best mechanism of doing it. Obviously, one of the things we have to do is get people off fiat currencies. Getting rid of the federal government means getting rid of the dollar as the world reserve currency, getting rid of the dollar entirely. And I think that's a key step in the right direction. But when it comes to the imbalance of power and the imbalance of wealth that exists, some of it is just going to have to be, we're just going to have to chalk it up as a loss. And I think if we want to move forward, we're going to have to give up some of that petty desire for perfect justice. However, there is a good mechanism that gets to a point where people are at least allowed equitable access to natural resources. And one of the ways that you can do that when you get rid of the federal government and have the states reclaim all the federally held property within their borders when they secede is they can then relocalize it again to the county level, and at some point you simply issue shares in corporations that are holding all of that property, and you allow people to sell them or trade them, and that's how you get to that privatization. And it's not going to be perfect, Alex, and this is a very screwed up world we live in, as you do a great job of educating people about, but we have to accept some of the past mistakes in order to move past them without dwelling on this, because if
No, I understand, but the way the complexity of the world works, the way the complexity of the world works is that the organized gangs, the big corporate gangs that set up the New World Order, the ones that
what you're pointing to in Europe is often challenging the sovereignty of the states of Europe in favor of the European Union control. And it's still fundamentally, and Alex, you understand the mechanisms of this. The way those people work is if it wasn't for the coercion of the government enforcement class, what they're talking about wouldn't be possible. And so when you can have...
Oh, no, we know wildcat economies grow at 10 to 15% a year. Globalist economies are basically negative except in certain sectors. Look, I agree with a true laissez-faire, open, free society. The problem is they always have a version of laissez-faire. These big insiders only want laissez-faire for them and nobody else.
Right, and if there is part of this localization process that I'm describing that includes reclaiming property from corrupt corporations that have benefited unjustly from government, and a state government at the point of secession decides, hey, there's a facility, there's a power plant, there's something, there's a whatever it is that's in our state that was gained unjustly, it can be reclaimed by the state.
And then one finds that in the state courts.
Yeah, like I said, it's not perfect, but it's a move in the right direction.
Oh, no, listen, now you're talking. They've shut down 2,000 plus power plants the last 5 years that are totally clean so that the jobs can move to China where the globalists have their insider deals. That's on record. So we arrest the people that run the corporations that did that and lobby for it. That's pure organized crime. And we turn those damn power plants on. See, now you're talking.
Yeah, see, we take away all these mechanisms of control here, Alex, and the
Hey, wait a minute. These guys ain't going to give up, buddy. They're going to be offshore with legions of hitmen. They're going to send in here to kill us. So I'm saying, how do we organize to stop them?
This is the important point here, Alex, because where they get their legions of hitmen now is through government. The private corporations...
They're going to be offshore bases. Any country that tries to go free, they will then attack from every angle. I'm saying we're not doing this in a vacuum. That's why the founders believed we had to have a limited government.
Well, they also believed that the greatest threat to freedom was a standing army, and that the greatest defense was a well-armed population that refused to be oppressed.
I agree.
That's what we're working towards. The reason the Japanese didn't invade the mainland was because they'd find a rifle behind every blade of grass. And what we're proposing is a population that refuses to be subjected to tyranny. And when you get to that point, you can't be invaded.
Do you agree with me that we're not even talking about the federal government and that it is more popular to say we have an occupied globalist government by banksters?
Absolutely.